The morning air carried a special kind of magic as Prince William stood before the tall mirror in his private chambers at Clarence House. His reflection showed a man caught between two worlds: the devoted father who had just finished helping his youngest son Louis tie his shoes, and the future king preparing for one of the most important days in British royal history. The ceremonial robes felt heavier than usual today, not because of their gold threading and rich fabric, but because of what they represented. Today his father would become King Charles III, and William would officially step into his role as the direct heir to the throne. Catherine entered the room quietly, her own preparation complete, looking radiant in a dress that perfectly balanced royal tradition with modern elegance. She had chosen colors that would complement the ancient surroundings of Westminster Abbey, while ensuring their children would easily spot her in the crowd if they needed reassurance. Her hair was styled in a way that would hold up through hours of ceremony, and her jewelry told the story of royal heritage passed down through generations. She moved with a natural grace that had made her beloved by the British public. But William could see the slight tension in her shoulders that revealed her own awareness of the day's significance. Their three children were already causing gentle chaos in the adjoining room, their excited voices carrying through the doors as they prepared for what they knew was a very special day. 9-year-old George had been remarkably serious about his preparation, understanding more than his younger siblings about the historical importance of what was about to unfold. He had spent the previous evening asking his father detailed questions about the coronation ceremony, wanting to understand each ritual and tradition that would take place. His curiosity reminded William of his own childhood, when he had peppered his parents with endless questions about royal duties and the meaning behind centuries-old customs. Princess Charlotte bounced between excitement and nervousness, her mind struggling to grasp why today felt different from other formal royal events she had attended. She had tried on her dress 3 times that morning, asking her mother repeatedly if she looked appropriate for such an important occasion. Natural confidence, usually so evident during public appearances, seemed slightly shaken by the magnitude of the day ahead. She kept practicing her curtsy in front of the mirror, determined to show proper respect to her grandfather who would soon be wearing the crown that had rested on royal heads for centuries. Little Louis, at 5 years old, remained blissfully unaware of the historical weight of the day, more interested in the fact that he got to wear his smartest clothes and would see lots of people he recognized. His innocent joy brought lightness to the household's preparation, his giggles and questions providing a sweet counterpoint to the serious nature of the occasion. He had been told that today was very special for Grandpa Charles, but in his young mind, it simply meant another family gathering with fancy clothes and lots of attention from grown-ups, who usually seemed very serious about everything. William found himself thinking about his late mother Diana as he made final adjustments to his ceremonial dress. He wondered what she would have thought about this day, imagining her pride in seeing her son ready to take on greater responsibilities within the monarchy she had both loved and struggled with during her own time as a royal. The weight of her absence felt particularly heavy on days like this, when family milestones highlighted the empty space she had left behind. He could almost hear her voice offering encouragement and reminding him to find joy in the moment rather than focusing solely on duty and obligation. Catherine noticed her husband's reflective mood and moved closer, straightening an already perfect detail on his uniform while offering the kind of wordless support that had strengthened their marriage through countless public challenges. She understood the complex emotions swirling through his mind: pride in his father's achievement, awareness of his own changing role, concern for their children's adaptation to increased scrutiny, and the natural nervousness that came with participating in such a historically significant event. Her presence alone provided the stability that allowed William to process these feelings without becoming overwhelmed by their intensity. The sounds of London awakening to Coronation Day drifted through the windows, increased traffic, excited voices of early gathering crowds, and the distant preparation sounds from Westminster Abbey where final arrangements were being completed. Television crews had been setting up for hours, ready to broadcast this moment to millions of viewers around the world, who would witness the transition of power that happened perhaps once in a generation. The magnitude of global attention added another layer of responsibility to William's already heavy emotional load. George appeared in the doorway, his formal attire making him look remarkably grown-up despite his tender age. He had been practicing walking with the dignified posture expected of a future king, and his serious expression showed his determination to honor his family and his country through his behavior at the ceremony. William felt a surge of pride mixed with protectiveness as he looked at his eldest son, knowing that George was beginning to understand the path that lay ahead of him, even if the full weight of that destiny remained years away from settling on his young shoulders. Charlotte and Louis joined their brother, the three children together creating a picture of the monarchy's future that would soon be captured by photographers and remembered in history books. Catherine knelt down to make final adjustments to their clothing, her maternal instincts ensuring they looked perfect while her encouraging words helped calm any lingering nervousness. The family stood together for a moment, savoring this quiet time before they stepped into the public eye and became part of a ceremony watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. As they prepared to leave for Westminster Abbey, William took one last look around the room that had sheltered their private family moments. Soon there would be public figures participating in ancient rituals. But for these final minutes, they remained simply a family supporting each other through a momentous transition. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting everything in golden light that seemed to promise that whatever changes lay ahead, they would face them together with love, dignity, and the strength that came from their unbreakable family bond. The sound of their official car arriving signaled that the time for private reflection had ended. William straightened his shoulders. Catherine gathered the children with gentle efficiency, and together they prepared to step into history, carrying the hopes and traditions of a nation into an uncertain but promising future that would be shaped by their actions in the years to come. The official car glided through the streets of London as Prince William's family made their way toward Westminster Abbey, passing crowds of people who had gathered since the early morning hours to catch a glimpse of this historic day. The children pressed their faces against the windows, marveling at the sea of Union Jack flags, colorful banners, and excited faces that lined every street corner. The energy from the crowds seemed to seep through the car windows, filling the vehicle with an electric atmosphere that made even young Louis sit up straighter in his seat. Beginning to understand that something truly extraordinary was happening, Catherine pointed out interesting sights to help keep the children engaged during the journey, noting the elaborate decorations that had transformed familiar London landmarks into something magical. Street vendors sold commemorative items while families picnicked on blankets, having claimed their viewing spots hours before dawn. The diversity of the crowd impressed William. People of all ages and backgrounds had come together to witness it. This moment in British history, their faces glowing with anticipation and national pride. Some held homemade signs expressing their love for the royal family, while others waved small flags with the enthusiasm of children at a parade. George watched everything with intense focus, his young mind trying to process the scale of attention focused on their family. He had attended royal events before, but nothing had prepared him for the magnitude of this coronation celebration. The 9-year-old asked thoughtful questions about why so many people had come to see them, beginning to grasp that his family represented something larger than themselves to the British people. His father explained gently that people were celebrating not just one man becoming king, but the continuation of traditions that connected them to centuries of history and culture. Princess Charlotte waved enthusiastically at every group of children. She spotted in the crowd her natural warmth and friendliness shining through despite the formal nature of the occasion. The 7-year-old seemed to draw energy from the excitement around her, her earlier nervousness melting away as she saw how happy people looked to be part of this special day. She pointed out elaborate hats, colorful dresses, and creative signs that people held up, treating the journey like an exciting adventure rather than a solemn duty. Her joy was infectious, helping to lighten the mood inside the car as they drew closer to Westminster Abbey. Louis bounced in his seat with barely contained excitement, his 5-year-old attention jumping from one interesting sight to another. He waved at everyone, regardless of whether they could see him through the car windows, his innocent enthusiasm bringing smiles to his parents' faces. The young prince asked endless questions about the crowds, the decorations, and why everyone looked so happy, his curiosity providing a welcome distraction from the weight of responsibility that both William and Catherine felt settling on their shoulders as they approached the Abbey. The closer they got to Westminster Abbey, the more elaborate the preparations became, with military personnel in ceremonial dress lining the streets and mounted guards creating impressive displays of pageantry. William noticed how his children's eyes widened at the sight of the horse guards in their brilliant uniforms, their polished boots and gleaming ceremonial swords catching the morning sunlight. The precision and dignity of the military presence added to the grandeur of the occasion while providing visible symbols of the stability and tradition that the monarchy represented to the nation. Catherine used the journey time to quietly prepare with the children for what they would experience inside the Abbey, reminding them about proper behavior while reassuring them that it was normal to feel excited, or even a little overwhelmed by such a big event. She had learned from previous royal occasions that preparation helped the children feel more confident and secure, allowing them to enjoy the experience rather than worry about making mistakes. Her calm guidance helped establish the right tone for their participation in the ceremony that awaited them. As their car turned the final corner toward Westminster Abbey, the full magnitude of the event became visible, with thousands of guests, hundreds of media representatives, and elaborate security arrangements creating a scene unlike anything the children had ever witnessed. The ancient abbey itself seemed to glow in the morning light, its Gothic spires reaching toward a sky that had cleared to reveal perfect blue heavens dotted with white clouds. The sight took William's breath away, reminding him of the countless royal ceremonies that had taken place within those sacred walls over the centuries. The crowds outside the abbey were different from those they had passed on the streets. These were invited guests, dignitaries, and representatives from around the world who had come to witness the coronation of King Charles. Their formal attire and dignified bearing created an atmosphere of international importance that impressed even young George, who began to understand that people from many different countries had traveled great distances to be present for his grandfather's crowning. The diversity of traditional dress from various cultures added beautiful splashes of color to the scene. Security personnel moved with practiced efficiency around the abbey grounds, their presence reassuring rather than intimidating as they ensured that every detail of the arrival process proceeded smoothly. William appreciated their professionalism, knowing that their careful work allowed his family to focus on the emotional and ceremonial aspects of the day rather than worrying about safety concerns. The coordination required for such a massive event impressed him, representing the dedication of hundreds of people working behind the scenes to make this historic moment possible. Catherine noticed photographers positioned at strategic locations around the abbey entrance, their cameras ready to capture every moment of the royal family's arrival. She had long since grown comfortable with media attention, but today felt different because of the historical significance and the fact that these images would be preserved in archives and history books for future generations to study. The thought that her children's faces would be part of the visual record of this coronation added another layer of meaning to their participation. As their car slowed to approach the abbey entrance, William felt a mixture of pride and responsibility wash over him. This was the moment when their private family preparation would transition into public participation in one of the most important ceremonies in British royal tradition. The children seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere, sitting up straighter and looking more serious as they prepared to step out of the car and into history. The golden morning light seemed to bless their arrival, casting everything in a warm glow that made the ancient stones of Westminster Abbey appear even more majestic and welcoming. The sound of ceremonial music began to drift from inside the abbey, mixing with the excited murmur of the gathered crowds to create a soundtrack that would forever be associated with this remarkable day. William took Catherine's hand as their car came to a complete stop, both parents sharing a moment of silent communication before turning their attention to helping their children prepare for the next phase of this extraordinary journey into the heart of British royal tradition and family heritage. The car doors opened with a soft click that seemed to echo with the weight of history as Prince William stepped out first, his ceremonial uniform catching the morning sunlight and creating small sparkles that danced across the ancient stone steps of Westminster Abbey. The sound of hundreds of cameras clicking created a gentle chorus that mixed with the excited whispers of the gathered crowd, while the sweet smell of fresh flowers arranged throughout the abbey grounds filled the air with natural perfume. Catherine emerged next, her elegant dress flowing gracefully as she moved with a poise that had made her a beloved figure around the world. Her smile warm and genuine as she acknowledged the respectful applause from the distinguished guests. George stepped out of the car with remarkable composure for his 9 years, his young shoulders straight and his expression serious as he began to understand that millions of people around the world were watching this very moment unfold on their television screens. The weight of his future role seemed to settle on him like an invisible cloak as he looked up at the towering spires of Westminster Abbey, where kings and queens had been crowned for nearly 1,000 years. His parents had prepared him well for this moment, teaching him that royal duties meant serving others with dignity and grace, lessons that now guided his careful steps toward the abbey entrance. Princess Charlotte practically glowed with excitement as she took in the magnificent scene around her, her 7-year-old eyes wide with wonder at the pageantry and grandeur that surrounded their family. She had practiced her curtsy many times in preparation for this day, and now she moved with careful precision while still maintaining the natural charm that had endeared her to the public during previous royal appearances. The morning light seemed to follow her as she walked, highlighting the careful attention that had gone into every detail of her appearance, from her perfectly arranged hair to her polished shoes that clicked softly against the stone pathway. Little Louis bounded out of the car with the irrepressible energy that only a 5-year-old could possess, his face lighting up with pure joy as he saw the elaborate decorations and the sea of friendly faces that turned toward their family with expressions of love and respect. His innocent enthusiasm brought spontaneous smiles to even the most formal dignitaries in attendance, his natural ability to find wonder in every moment serving as a reminder that beneath all the ceremony and tradition, this was ultimately a family celebration. The young prince waved at everyone he could see, his genuine happiness infectious and heartwarming. The family moved together toward the abbey entrance, their steps synchronized in a way that spoke of both careful preparation and natural family harmony. William felt the eyes of the world upon them, knowing that this moment would be preserved in photographs and video footage that would be studied by historians and royal watchers for generations to come. The responsibility of representing not just their family but their entire nation weighed heavily on his mind, yet the presence of his wife and children beside him provided the strength and motivation he needed to carry himself with appropriate dignity. Inside Westminster Abbey, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation as nearly 2,000 guests filled every available seat, their conversations creating a gentle hum that echoed off the ancient stone walls and soaring Gothic arches. The abbey had been transformed into a spectacular showcase of British craftsmanship and artistry, with elaborate floral arrangements creating bursts of color against the historical backdrop, while golden decorations caught and reflected the light streaming through stained glass windows that had witnessed centuries of royal ceremonies. the smell of centuries-old wood and stone mixed with fresh flowers and the subtle scent of burning candles to create an atmosphere that was both sacred and celebratory. Representatives from countries around the world filled the distinguished guest sections, their diverse traditional dress adding international flavor to the quintessentially British ceremony. Kings and queens from other nations, presidents and prime ministers, religious leaders and cultural ambassadors had all gathered to witness this historic transition of power that would shape the future of the British monarchy. The sight of so many world leaders coming together in peaceful celebration impressed even the youngest members of the royal family, who began to understand that their grandfather's coronation was truly a global event. Cathedral choirs had been practicing for months to perfect the musical selections that would accompany the ceremony, their voices now filling the abbey with haunting melodies that seemed to call down blessings from heaven itself. The organ music swelled and faded in perfect harmony with the human voices, creating a soundtrack that elevated the entire experience beyond the merely ceremonial into something approaching the spiritual. Even young Louis, usually unable to sit still for long periods, found himself captivated by the beautiful sounds that seemed to make the very air around them shimmer with reverence. Television cameras positioned throughout the abbey captured every angle of the proceedings, ensuring that people around the world could share in this moment of British history from the comfort of their own homes. The technical complexity of broadcasting such an event was staggering, with dozens of camera operators working in perfect coordination to provide viewers with intimate glimpses of both the grand pageantry and the personal family moments that made this coronation unique. The global audience was estimated in the hundreds of millions, making this one of the most watched events in television history. William guided his family to their designated seats in the front section of the abbey, where they would have perfect views of the altar where King Charles would soon be crowned. The children looked around with increasing awe as they took in the full splendor of their surroundings, from the intricate stone carvings that decorated every surface to the magnificent tapestries that hung from the walls like colorful banners. Celebrating centuries of royal tradition, George asked whispered questions about the various elements of the abbey's architecture, his curiosity about history and tradition growing stronger with each passing moment. Catherine helped arrange the children in their seats, ensuring they were comfortable while maintaining the proper decorum expected during such a solemn ceremony. Her experience at royal events served her well as she balanced the needs of being a mother with the requirements of royal protocol, somehow managing to keep her children engaged and well-behaved, while looking perfectly composed herself. The other guests in their section watched with appreciation as she demonstrated the kind of graceful parenting that had made her such a popular figure among families throughout Britain and beyond. The Archbishop of Canterbury appeared near the altar, his ceremonial robes marking him as the religious leader who would perform the ancient rituals that would transform Prince Charles into King Charles III. His presence added gravitas to the proceedings, reminding everyone present that this ceremony was not merely a political transition but a sacred covenant between the monarch and both God and the people of the realm. The weight of religious tradition combined with centuries of royal custom created an atmosphere that felt both timeless and momentous. As the final preparations were completed and the ceremony prepared to begin, William felt a profound sense of connection to all the generations of his family who had participated in similar moments throughout British history. The continuity of tradition stretching back through the centuries provided comfort and strength as he prepared to witness his father's transformation from heir to king. Knowing that someday he would stand in that same position while his own son, George, watched from the audience, ready to continue the ancient cycle of service and dedication that defined the British royal family. The moment everyone had been waiting for arrived as King Charles entered Westminster Abbey, wearing the magnificent crimson and gold robes that had been crafted specifically for this historic occasion. The fabrics seemed to catch every ray of light that filtered through the ancient stained-glass windows, creating a radiant display that made the soon-to-be crowned monarch appear almost otherworldly as he moved slowly down the aisle. William felt his breath catch in his throat as he watched his father approach the altar, knowing that this was the culmination of a lifetime of preparation and dedication to the service of his country and its people. The children sat perfectly still, their young eyes wide with wonder as they witnessed their grandfather transformed from the familiar family figure they knew into a majestic representation of centuries of royal tradition. George understood more than his siblings about the significance of what was happening, his 9-year-old mind grasping that he was watching a preview of his own distant future, when he would one day walk down this same aisle to receive the same crown. His serious expression showed the weight of this realization, yet there was also pride in his eyes as he watched his grandfather carry himself with such dignity and grace. Princess Charlotte leaned slightly forward in her seat, not wanting to miss a single detail of the ceremony that was unfolding before her. The 7-year-old was particularly fascinated by the elaborate golden objects that had been placed on the altar, each one representing different aspects of royal power and responsibility that had been passed down through generations of monarchs. She whispered quiet questions to her mother about the meaning of various ceremonial elements, her curiosity adding to the sense of family connection to this ancient ritual that was both deeply personal and intensely public. Catherine kept one protective arm around Louis while maintaining her own composed attention on the ceremony, her maternal instincts ensuring that her youngest child remained calm and engaged throughout the lengthy proceedings. The 5-year-old had been remarkably well behaved, but she could see signs that his patience was being tested by the formal nature of the event. Her gentle touches and reassuring smiles helped keep him settled while allowing her to fully experience the emotional weight of watching her father-in-law assume the crown that would one day rest on her husband's head. The Archbishop of Canterbury began the ancient words of the coronation ceremony, his voice carrying clearly throughout the abbey, as he spoke phrases that had been used to crown monarchs for hundreds of years. The power of tradition seemed to flow through every syllable, connecting this moment to countless previous coronations while acknowledging that this particular ceremony was unique in its own right. William found himself mouthing along with some of the familiar prayers and responses, his royal education having prepared him for this moment even as the emotional reality of it overwhelmed his careful preparation. When the moment came for the actual crowning, a profound silence fell over the entire abbey as 2,000 guests held their collective breath. The St. Edward's crown, weighing nearly 5 pounds and adorned with precious gems that had adorned the heads of monarchs for centuries, was lifted high above King Charles's head. The golden metal seemed to glow with inner light as it caught the illumination from hundreds of candles and the natural light streaming through the abbey's magnificent windows. Time seemed to stand still as the crown was slowly lowered onto the king's head, completing a transformation that had been decades in the making. William felt tears begin to form in his eyes as he watched his father officially become King Charles III, the weight of emotion almost overwhelming as he realized that this moment marked not just his father's achievement but also his own transition into the role of direct heir to the throne. The pride he felt was mixed with a profound sense of responsibility, knowing that the attention of the nation would now turn more intensely toward him and his family. As they prepared for their own eventual roles in the monarchy, Catherine noticed her husband's emotional response and discreetly took his hand, providing the support and strength that had anchored their marriage through countless public challenges. The moment the crown settled on King Charles's head, the abbey erupted in the traditional cry of "God Save the King" that echoed off the stone walls and seemed to lift the roof with its power and enthusiasm. The children joined in with their young voices, George and Charlotte understanding the importance of this moment while Louis simply enjoyed being part of the exciting celebration that surrounded him. The sound of 2,000 voices united in this ancient acclamation created a powerful wave of emotion that swept through the abbey, binding everyone present together in a shared moment of national celebration. Following the crowning, the ceremony continued with the presentation of various royal regalia, each item carrying deep symbolic meaning about the responsibilities and powers of the monarchy. The sovereign's orb, representing the monarch's role as defender of the faith, was placed in King Charles's left hand, while the scepter, symbolizing temporal power and justice, was placed in his right. William watched his father handle these ancient symbols with reverence and care, understanding that they represented not just personal achievement but the continuation of a system of government and national identity that had evolved over more than 1,000 years. The newly crowned King Charles looked out over the congregation, his eyes finding his family in the front section and sharing a moment of connection that transcended the public nature of the ceremony. In that brief glance, William saw not just his father, the king, but the man who had raised him, taught him about duty and service, and prepared him for the responsibilities that would someday be his own. The personal and public aspects of their relationship merged in that moment, creating a bond that was both deeply familial and profoundly institutional. As the religious portions of the ceremony concluded, the abbey filled with the sounds of choral music that had been specifically chosen to reflect both the joy of the occasion and the solemnity of the commitments being made. The voices of the combined choirs soared through the ancient space, their harmonies creating an atmosphere that felt both celebratory and sacred. Even young Louis seemed moved by the beauty of the music, his usual restlessness replaced by quiet attention, as the sounds washed over him like a blessing. The ceremony began to move toward its conclusion, as King Charles prepared to process out of the abbey wearing the crown that would now be his for the rest of his life. William knew that when they left this sacred space, everything would be different. His father would be king, he would be the direct heir to the throne, and his children would be one step closer to their own destinies within the royal family. The weight of these changes felt both exciting and overwhelming as he prepared to follow the newly crowned monarch out of Westminster Abbey and into a new chapter of British royal history. Catherine gathered the children as they prepared to join the procession, her natural grace and efficiency ensuring that they would transition smoothly from seated observers to active participants in the ceremonial conclusion of this historic day. The morning light streaming through the abbey windows seemed to bless their movement as they rose from their seats, ready to continue their journey as central figures in the ongoing story of the British monarchy and the family that had dedicated their lives to serving their nation with dignity, grace, and unwavering commitment to the people they were privileged to represent. The magnificent procession began to form as the newly crowned King Charles, wearing the imperial state crown that glittered with over 2,000 diamonds, prepared to leave Westminster Abbey in a celebration that would carry the royal family through the streets of London and into their transformed future. William felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders as he took his place in the ceremonial order, knowing that he was no longer simply a prince supporting his father but the direct heir to the throne, with all the responsibilities and expectations that this new role would bring to his family's daily life. The children moved with remarkable grace as they joined the procession, their weeks of preparation evident in every careful step they took across the ancient stone floors of the abbey. George walked with the dignity of someone far beyond his 9 years, understanding that the cameras capturing this moment would preserve these images for history books that future generations would study to understand this pivotal day in British royal tradition. His serious expression showed his awareness that he was not just participating in a family celebration but helping to create a historical record that would endure long after everyone present had passed into memory. Princess Charlotte practically glowed with excitement as she took her place in the procession, her natural confidence and charm shining through despite the formal nature of the occasion. The 7-year-old had found her rhythm within the ceremony, no longer nervous about making mistakes, but instead embracing her role as part of this magnificent spectacle that was being watched by hundreds of millions of people around the world. Her smile was genuine and warm as she walked, bringing a touch of youthful joy to the ancient rituals that surrounded her family's participation in this historic transition of power. Little Louis had surprised everyone with his patience and good behavior throughout the lengthy ceremony, but now his 5-year-old energy was beginning to bubble over with excitement as he realized they were moving towards something new and different. His parents had prepared him as much as possible for what to expect, but the reality of being part of such an elaborate procession was beyond anything his young imagination had envisioned. His wonder at everything around him brought smiles to the faces of even the most serious dignitaries, his innocent joy serving as a reminder that beneath all the pageantry and tradition, this was ultimately a family celebrating a significant milestone together. As they emerged from Westminster Abbey into the brilliant sunlight of the perfect spring day, the roar of the crowd hit them like a wave of pure emotion and energy. Thousands of people lined the streets as far as the eye could see, their cheers and applause creating a soundtrack of national celebration that seemed to lift the entire procession on wings of shared joy and pride. The Union Jack flags waved enthusiastically from every available space, while banners and signs expressing love and support for the royal family added splashes of color to the already magnificent scene that greeted the newly expanded royal family. Catherine walked with perfect poise beside her husband, her experience with royal events allowing her to balance the competing demands of acknowledging the crowd's enthusiasm while maintaining the dignity appropriate to such a solemn occasion. She kept a watchful eye on their children, ready to provide guidance or support if any of them became overwhelmed by the intensity of the public attention. Her natural warmth and genuine connection with people shone through as she smiled and waved to the crowd, her presence adding a modern touch of accessibility to the ancient traditions that surrounded them. The gold state coach awaited them, its ornate decorations catching the sunlight and creating a dazzling display that seemed almost magical in its beauty and grandeur. The coach had carried monarchs for over 2 centuries, and now it would carry King Charles on his first journey as the crowned ruler of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms. The sight of this magnificent vehicle, with its elaborate gilding and historical significance, impressed even young George, who understood that he was looking at a piece of living history that connected the present moment to centuries of royal tradition and ceremony. William helped his family into their own ceremonial carriage, his movements careful and deliberate as he ensured that everyone was comfortable and properly positioned for the journey through London that would allow the British people to see their royal family and share in the celebration of this historic day. The responsibility of representing the monarchy to the public felt heavier now that his father wore the crown, knowing that every gesture and expression would be scrutinized and remembered as part of the official record of King Charles's coronation day. The procession began to move through the streets of London, creating a river of pageantry and tradition that flowed past crowds of cheering people who had waited for hours to catch a glimpse of their royal family on this extraordinary day. Military bands played stirring music that mixed with the cheers of the crowd to create a symphony of celebration that seemed to transform the entire city into a stage for this magnificent display of British culture and heritage. The precision of the military escorts, the beauty of the horses, and the grandeur of the ceremonial vehicles combined to create a spectacle that exceeded even the most elaborate Hollywood productions. George waved enthusiastically at the crowds, his earlier nervousness completely forgotten as he embraced his role in this celebration that honored his grandfather while also marking his own step forward in his journey toward eventual kingship. The 9-year-old seemed to draw energy from the positive response of the people lining the streets, their smiles and cheers helping him understand that the royal family's service was appreciated and valued by the citizens they were privileged to represent. His natural charisma began to shine through as he found his comfort level with the public attention that would be a constant part of his future life. Charlotte and Louis waved with the enthusiasm that only children could bring to such an occasion, their genuine delight at seeing so many happy faces bringing additional warmth to an already joyful scene. The crowd's response to the children was particularly enthusiastic, with people calling out their names and expressing their affection for the young members of the royal family who represented the future of the monarchy. Their natural ability to connect with people of all ages demonstrated the continuing relevance and appeal of the royal family in modern British society. As their carriage moved through different neighborhoods of London, William was struck by the diversity of the crowds that had gathered to celebrate this moment. People of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life had come together to share in this national celebration, their unity in support of the monarchy, serving as a powerful reminder of the institution's ability to bring people together across social and cultural divides. The sight of families who had made this day a special outing, complete with picnic lunches and commemorative items, warmed his heart and reinforced his commitment to serving these people with dedication and humility. The journey back to Buckingham Palace seemed to pass both quickly and slowly, with each moment filled with sights and sounds that would remain in their memories forever. The children's excitement never flagged, their energy sustained by the constant stream of new experiences and the infectious enthusiasm of the crowds that surrounded their route. Catherine maintained her gracious acknowledgement of the public, while keeping her family grounded and connected to each other throughout the overwhelming experience of being the center of such massive public attention. As Buckingham Palace came into view, its familiar facade now representing home in a completely new way for William and his family, the reality of their transformed roles began to settle over them like a comfortable but weighty cloak. King Charles would soon appear on the famous balcony as the crowned monarch, and they would stand beside him as the family of the heir apparent. Their lives forever changed by the events of this extraordinary day that had successfully blended ancient tradition with modern celebration in a way that honored the past while embracing the future with hope and determination.